So if you want to ask a question, certainly throw up your hand. And remember, we're here to talk about governance.
Hi, my name is Karen Ferguson. I'm a resident of West Hants. And my question is, if you're looking at annexation or if one municipal unit is not in a good financial position and the other municipal unit is, how does that get worked out, and how does the new tax rate come into effect? Is it a blended thing?
Okay. Good question. So taxes are always one of the biggest questions, of course, when you look at a governance change. So what has happened again, and a lot of what I can talk to is what has occurred. Okay, so what's really hard for us to say is this is exactly what would happen in any of these processes, but we can certainly talk about what has occurred. So in the most recent dissolutions, talk about Hansport specifically. Hansport has some debt, not a significant amount, it's about $1 million, which sounds significant to me, but not so much to a municipality. So that debt remains with the residents of the former town of Hansport, and it will until that's paid off. So what happens is that there's an area rate. So everybody in West Hants pays an area rate. So even if you live in Hansport, you pay an area rate, a base rate. And then on top of that, there's an area rate. So there's an area rate in the former town of Hansport, and that debt that they currently have will be paid out of that area rate until the debt is gone. And it's at that point that should reduce the area rate. So again, that will stay with the former resident, the residents of the former town until it's gone. So
Yeah.
I'm Ann Cochran, I live in Windsor, and I'm just curious, if the roads stay the same, so what would change? How would it be such a difference if the roads stay the same, and what does change?
So, I mean, in any of the processes, you have to look at efficiencies. Obviously, it's not a great idea to jump into a governance change unless there's a benefit to it, So that could be back to the list of some of the positives. So you look at different things like cost savings. So, for example, if you have 2 units, there might be duplication of service. So there could be departments that you have that do exactly the same thing. Maybe there's capacity in one department or another department. And if you blend them, maybe there's ways to save money. You look at equipment alone. Sometimes there's ways that instead of everybody owning a truck, maybe you only need one of them instead of 2 or 3 in different areas. Just general efficiencies saves a lot of money. Next question. I have a couple here. So the first one is, who helps guide the applicant en route to addressing the Nova Scotia Utility and Review Board? Well, certainly the Department of Municipal Affairs is always involved when there's a governance change. So again, my role is to work with municipalities on whatever it is that they might need. Kind of like the liaison between the municipality and provincial government. So again, there's 3 of us in the province that all have our own territories, and we work very closely with whatever unit might be interested in having a discussion about governance and help them walk through the process. Because it's I'm not going to say it's a complicated process, but it's an in-depth process. There's a lot to know. The Department of Municipal Affairs, of course, has been through it with a number of different municipalities. And just for example, the application, a lot of that information, the Department of Municipal Affairs will help garner, help find, help put together, and assist the municipality to get that ready for submission. and can certainly share the information that has happened in the past and how you look for consultants to do the work that you need to do that type of thing. So the next question I have here is who funds the intervener? And the answer to that would be the intervener. And who does that person take orders from? So an intervener could be an individual, could be a community group. Just to give you some examples, in Pictou right now, I was at the preliminary hearing. I think there was three interveners. Four. So there's unions. So in that process, I can't remember which municipalities, but there's one or two municipalities that have unions. There's a police union as well, because one of them has, or two of them, I think, have their own police force. So the police union has filed for intervener status as well. The other two municipal units in the county of Pictou have also filed for intervener status. They wanted to be able to sit at the table because they have agreements with the other units that are involved. So again, they've stated that they're not opposed to the 4 units moving forward with amalgamation, but they do want to have the opportunity to sit at the table and have a discussion about how that may or may not affect them. So who does the person or group take orders from? That would be nobody. So other than obviously following the board processes. So they, if they have questions, comments, concerns, that's their prerogative to ask those planning process.
Hi, I'm Leslie McNabb, I'm a resident of Falmouth. In the situation where you turn to one municipal government, how is the leadership established for that new municipal government?
Good question. So again, it's a little bit different in each case. So if it's an amalgamation, as part of the process, as part of the studies that would be requested by the Utility Review Board, they'd ask for a boundary review. That boundary review would look at how many people, what the population are. They'd look at the communities of interest. So, if there's a whole bunch of people who live on one side of a river or another. So that report would be submitted to the Utility Review Board, and they would make basically a recommendation that says, we would suggest you draw these boundaries, and that each of these boundaries would have an elected official. And then the board would rule on that and say, yes, we agree. That's how we would set it up. So in an amalgamation case, what the board can rule on is the number of seats. What they don't rule on is a mayor versus warden system. That's a decision of the council. So again, they would rule on the number of seats, and then if possible, if the council wanted to, they could declare that they wanted a mayor system. In a dissolution case, basically it's similar. So if you had a town join a rural municipality, they do a boundary review again. A recommendation is brought forth, and it's similar, same process basically.
So would the current elected officials remain in their positions?
Typically not. So what happens? So amalgamation, you're starting fresh. So you take 2 units. If both units are giving up their charter, you're starting fresh. There'll be a new election with the new seats in place.
Right.
In a dissolution case, for example, in Hantsport, basically in the MGA it says the mayor would sit on the current council until the next election when the boundaries have been redrawn, which is what has happened now. Mr. Zwicker is sitting on the council until the next election.
Thank you.
Okay, the next question here is regional government must include all municipal units. The answer to that is yes, as per the MGA. East Hants is basically separate from West Hants. Yeah, Hants County is very, I would say, a little bit unique because of the highway system. East Hants is, they're kind of in a different corridor than the communities of West Hants and Windsor. So it's a little bit different. If you think about some of the other counties, they're all contained. They're all together. So you have Kings County, for example. There's 4 units in Kings County. If they wanted to amalgamate it, create regional government, it's a little bit different. And that's the Queens County, for example. There was the town of Liverpool, the municipality, and 2 villages, but they're all right there all together. The next question I have here is cost of URB coordination. Who funds this? Coordinator, sorry. Who funds this position? So again, it's not so there's typically in all the processes that have happened, there's a transition coordinator that has been appointed. That position has typically been funded by the province through the transition committee. So in any of these processes, there's a transition committee that gets established with representation from both municipal units or all municipal units are involved. And then there's a transition coordinator that's appointed by the province in coordination with the municipal units.
How are they chosen?
So basically, there's a list developed, and that's discussed with the municipal units that are involved, and basically come to an agreement as to who that would be, and then they're appointed by the province. So in the previous cases, Mr. Morash was the transition coordinator in the town of Hantsport. Mr. Morash he's a chartered accountant. He's a former chair of the Utility Review Board, so had a lot of experience with municipal government and processes and change, and had actually been the transition coordinator in the Queens, the region of Queens change. So typically look for people that have municipal experience, accounting experience, some political experience, that type of thing. And who did the other part 2 of that question is, who does the person report to? They're kind of, they're appointed by the provincial government. I wouldn't say that they report to the provincial government. They work in coordination with the municipal units to help go through the process. So they're there to help the municipal units, to help coordinate them. That's their job, is coordinate the entire process, work together with units to make sure that the meetings are happening and the work is getting done. Question way in the back there.
Hey, Robert. Thank you. Chuck Porter, West Hants, resident of Windsor. Just a couple of really quick questions. And a comment. First comment is, it is good to see so many people here tonight because, as you know, we have had these kinds of municipal reform discussions in the past with a relatively small crowd. So this is really, really great to see so many people have taken part and asking some really good questions. A couple of questions I have. One, you had a slide up there a few minutes ago that showed a time frame. And as it would run right now, just doing the quick math, 8 weeks, a couple of months for one, 3 months potentially, 3 months potentially. We're leading right up to what will be the next municipal election in all likelihood. Pretty close to it. At that time, and it doesn't matter to me, I'll make this clear, it doesn't matter to me what it is, as long as we're working together and doing the right thing now, the people that we all represent here. But will there be, and a lot of people have come to me and asked the question over the last few weeks, will there be an opportunity whereby individuals can have a say, so i.e. a plebiscite at election time to give the people of Windsor, West Hants an opportunity to mark a ballot one way or the other in favor of that? And just, I'll add my next one to it quickly, is tonight there's a number of people that some are asking, do we have an opportunity to I'll use the word vote or have an impact this evening on what we would like to see? I realize it's an information session. Maybe you can just touch on what is actually next for us all.
Okay. Thanks, Chuck. So first of all, plebiscite is not determined by the provincial government and the MDA. Municipal units are allowed to have a plebiscite. So certainly if either unit was interested in having a plebiscite, that would be a council decision. So certainly, again, what would the next step be? That's really for the 2 municipal units to decide. Again, hopefully there's discussion to look at what's best for the citizens.
Depending on which form of governance, will the provincial government sweeten the pot to help it through? Hey, I'm a taxpayer.
Well, certainly in my role, I don't sign any big checks. And again, we have to look at past practice. Past practice has shown that when there's units that are working together and looking to make the government change, that the provincial government has supported that. So again, we have to use what has happened. So in the past 3 dissolution cases, in each of those cases there was funding included in the dissolution process. So the board, I think, was $3.1 million plus equalization for 5 years, which will go towards the infrastructure in the former town of Transport. And they were very similar in Bridgetown and Spring Hill as well. There's one in the back there.
3 in the back.
3 in the back, all right.
Rob, Jim White, resident of West Hants for more than 20 years and own property in Windsor. Your presentation is very interesting and very informative, but it seems to be a business as usual kind of presentation. What would happen in a normal case and what would be in the best interest normally for a regional area. In West Hants, it appears to me that we have an emergency. It requires action now. We have an out-of-control council that without a political mandate is spending millions of dollars to solve a problem we don't have. And what you're telling us is that there's basically no way we can stop that. Surely to God, the province has heard the hundreds and thousands of people in this area who are concerned about all this money that's being spent needlessly. And there's got to be something that we can do on an emergency basis to get the provincial attention to do something immediately. Certainly in the regional municipality of Halifax, the amalgamation occurred by government fiat immediately, and then they worked out the details later. Can't something like that be done under the Municipal Government Act in order to stop this madness now?
Thank you, Jim. So again, basically, I understand. As you know, I live here. I've certainly heard the frustration personally, and I've seen some of the letters that have come in. So the short answer is no. There's you have a municipal election every 4 years. So if the council does something that they disagree with, then every 4 years you have an opportunity to make that change. There is things in the Municipal Government Act that, again, we touched on, that citizens can look at applying to make a change as well. So that's the short answer, and I know it's probably not the one you want to hear.
Yeah, there's more in back.
Yes, my name is Tony Duke. I live in Mount Benson. And one of the options is to have the 10% of the county residents request a change. You showed us a document from Mulgrave. I presume that the town of Mulgrave prepared that. If you get a petition of 10% of the county members, who's going to prepare that document?
Good question. So again, the responsibility of the application is the person that applies, or the group or unit that applies. So if there's 10% of the population that wants to make a change, then it is their responsibility as the applicant to basically submit the application.
What happens if the municipality won't share the information?
Can you use the mic, please?
I think it was what would happen if the municipality wouldn't share the information. Is that, I don't know who asked it. That was the question. There's nothing in that binder. There's nothing in that binder that I can't show to anybody. It's public information, so it's the type of thing that as citizens you would have the opportunity, you would have the right to ask for that information.
My name is Stan Scotia from Falmouth. I've lived in West Hants for the last 45 years.
Hold it close.
Just hold it close to your mouth, Suzanne.
Okay, you hear me out? I've been a resident of the Hants last 45 years, and also volunteered in Windsor and surrounding areas for a number of years as well. One of the questions I have is, where does the government stand on amalgamation for smaller communities and rural areas, like ours? You've said at times that you can't get involved in forcing the issue like happened in Cape Breton and Halifax. But aren't you following the report, the Ivey report, One Nova Scotia, that encourages this kind of thing, that people have got to get together in smaller communities, work together, and share services and not duplicate services, as we're trying to do here in the West Hants? So where does your government stand on that issue right now?
Yeah, absolutely. Good question. The current government has said that they will support any communities that want to make a change. So they've certainly been very supportive of the past three towns that have made the decision to dissolve with, walking through the process, providing funding, and we're certainly heavily involved with the three ongoing applications that are happening now, so far as Royal already. So this government has said, absolutely, we're there. We understand that they do take the One Nova Scotia report to heart, and are more than willing to help any municipality that is interested in making that change.
Hi, Rick Allen, I'm from West Hants. Now, if you would have been saying that if all this was happening, councilors would be on these boards with the UARB, if it's the 10% that want this to happen and submit this, and majority of the reason why they are 10% and they're putting this through is because they've lost faith in the councilors that we have right now who are running what we have. Is it the 10% that get to sit on that board, or is it still the councilors?
So there's kind of two processes that go on at once. There's the utility and review board, which is the actual process. The board is the ones that make the decision. So if there's a community group that applied, then absolutely you're involved in the board process. On the other side, there's the transition. So if it's happening, and it depends who's involved. So if everybody's at the table and everybody's saying, yes, we believe change is what should happen, and they're all part of the process and all want to move forward, then you have representatives from the council that work on transition. So basically that's how you take a municipal unit to make it into a new unit or join it with another unit, and the process of that. So what happens with the employees, what happens with